Nate Taylor, it is so good to see you right now at the absolute crack of 4:45 p.m. Central Time. It feels nice to be on time. It feels nice. The weather here is beautiful, and
Mm-hmm.
frankly, man, maybe other people would say otherwise, but I just don't feel like anything's missing right now.
Not at all. It's good to be professional, to be on time, to have that work ethic when a lot of Americans see their work productivity go down on a day like today.
That's right.
There's nothing better than having snow and bitter cold on Selection Sunday and the sun rising again on this beautiful Thursday with us already having received a immaculate upset. Just the old traditional 12-5. And look, we're still here. We're still ready to talk ball. I don't know how this show could get any better than how professional we are being in this moment, Josh. I don't see what anyone can add to this show right now when we are already so on point.
Nate, I couldn't agree more. Did there used to be another guy?
I have no idea what today's about to bring. I wonder if any Super Bowl champion has ever benched their left tackle in 2 different games in the same season.
Everywhere. Lights, come on. I need to see it, Omar. Show it to me.
Getting snaps.
Show it.
Jazz and I have been married for 17 years.
So, Nate, what do you think about...
Joshua Brisco, Nate Taylor, no Seth Kaiser today.
Oh, I was gonna say who is that guy that was like between
former co-host of Only Weird Games.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy is. Huh. Cool. All right.
This comment from Marshall in the chat says, saw we started on time, was about to say something about Seth being on time, and then saw he wasn't here. It all makes sense. Look, I mean, we've all had our piece of the puzzle over the years, but just the evidence today, Your Honor, is that it's a 2-man show, and we started at 4:45. And as Nate has already mentioned, we're in the throes of the first day of March Madness. So I hope you, dear voyeur, enjoy all 15 minutes of today's Only Weird Games. We're going to talk real fast. We're going to hit a lot of topics. No, that's not entirely true. That's an exaggeration. But Nate, we haven't really had a whole lot of breaking news shattering the NFL in the last couple of days. No new quarterback acquisitions. No other teams backing out of trade deals. The Justin Fields trade is official. It's been a pretty quiet 48 hours since the last one of these.
Yeah, everybody got the memo. I just appreciate that. This is one of the few days, ladies and gentlemen, where the NFL has truly stepped aside for, I don't know, 18 to 26-year-olds, depending on eligibility and COVID years. And, hey, my hamstring felt tight. Can I get another year of eligibility?
Yes.
No, I'm already a 2-time graduate, but I could be another academic All-American if you need one, just to bring that GPA up. I mean, come on, guys. Year 7, it's going to happen. It is really cool. The only thing that has happened today news-wise, and this tells you how quickly free agency becomes like one of the biggest days of the year. And then especially now that teams have gotten a lot smarter and have, been able to sign their best players to good contracts relative to their position before they get to age 24, 25. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I can inform you if you haven't heard already, because it's not like we took out the breaking news horns and Tucker didn't need to do anything in the background, and he definitely didn't need to put on a suit jacket for this. But Carson Wentz is back on the Minnesota Vikings.
Wow, I'm learning that right now.
That is the only news that was dropped this morning before we let these college boys have the rest of the day. So I just want to golf clap the NFL for giving us one day of just, hey, go outside, go to the bars, get your bracket in order, and let's watch Wisconsin yet again lose to a school that they have no business losing to. And we can all enjoy our day and see if we can get another, mid-major upset, in the evening portion of the tournament. But yeah, I think do you realize that the NFL hates, I shouldn't say this. The NFL be stepping on the NBA's territory all day, every day. But y'all let these kids just have the whole day. No news.
They're going to start doing a schedule release on the first Thursday of March Madness next year. They're gonna move it up. This is unacceptable. We can't let a round ball sport take the lead for 45 minutes. That's no way.
Yeah. They said, huh? Trade deadline? What trade deadline? Tell them Bill Belichick ain't in the Hall of Fame. Like, what? Like, yo.
You've brought two NFL news things to the front of my mind. I can't remember if one of them happened on Tuesday or yesterday, and we just didn't get to it on Tuesday. And then one thing in relation to Justin Fields. The Eagles traded for Andy Dalton, a 2027 7th round pick. The Chiefs gave up a 2027 6th rounder for Justin Fields in the year of our Lord 2026. I would have had a lot. I don't know if look, man, who knows? And again, when Patrick Mahomes isn't playing, your team's a lot worse off. But we would have had a very different tone, I think, if we would have been breaking down the Chiefs' acquisition of Andy Dalton, who, by the way, if he was a free agent, would have been the most obvious Andy Reid run a training camp quarterback. They could have had him for cheaper, and they still chose Justin Fields, which I think is interesting.
Yeah. Shout out to Rachel. Yes, the red rifle could have been in a red jersey. And Andy Reid said, I don't want it. Give me the high flyer in Justin Fields, who, is in Kansas City, passed his physical, so we can also give you that news as well. He's clearly a healthy young man. You love to see it. And I mean, I know, even when the Chiefs signed back Mike Caliendo, which I guess that is like the smallest of footnote of news. It's like, hey, Mike Caliendo signed his contract today to be a part once again of your Kansas City Chiefs. And they say, hey, say something to the fans, man. Let me hand you this cell phone. You just put it on selfie mode. You just tell them what you're ready. Like, hey, I'm ready to go. Shout out to Chiefs Kingdom. Can't wait to get started. We're ready to get to work. Da 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 da. Justin Fields said, hey, dog, I'm here. And people were like, why is he not excited? And I was like, well, I mean,
he's been in the spotlight for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, he's got to have some meme awareness. That's quarterback football IQ there. I'm not going to give him much. I'm not going to give him much in the selfie video recommendation or welcoming myself to the
back.
city. That's Mike Caliendo's job. If you're Justin Fields, you're going to introduce yourself in training camp. You're going to introduce yourself in OTAs.
Right. That's such a great point, Josh, because I just want to remind people today, Mike Caliendo signed a contract. They handed him a cell phone, and he said, I'm ready to go, ready to win another championship. He said more to the Chiefs fans than Justin Fields, who is, as of right now, QB1 by default.
Yeah, QB1 until, best case scenario. QB1 until the beginning of September, probably.
Right.
Yeah, we'll hear from. I will say, I think Justin Fields will be an interesting press conference, and
I mean, if he'll have one based on him not doing much with the cell phone in his hands. Fair. Hey, no one's asking you a question. You want to say anything to the new fan base? What's up, y'all? I'm here.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
Okay, cool.
I'm ready. He can lead my football team for important months of an off season.
Right.
Speaking of knowing who you are, I don't even think we texted about this, and I really did think this did end up, I think, coming out yesterday.
Okay.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, I'm not even tweeting about this. I just want to talk about this specifically with Nate. Knowing who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Browns proposed rule allowing teams to trade draft picks 5 years into future. I have a couple obvious reasons this is a bad idea. I think it's hilarious that the Browns are the ones proposing it. Nate, your thoughts? You work for ESPN. You're a beat writer for ESPN, the mothership. What do you think about this new rule change that could be on the horizon?
They should enact it immediately. They should adopt it. No. They should immediately say yes. And then who would be the first team to reach out to Jimmy Haslam and say, hey, 5 picks, right?
Yep.
Look, what do you guys think about your draft pick in 2030?
Yep.
What do you think about that? 2031? Can I interest you in that? For the chaos of it all, yes. for the sound business of it all, no. Like, you can't, if you're trading away the draft pick in which the player that you might take in that particular year is still in high school, we cannot do this. Yes. We cannot. Yes. There's a reason, and I used to know this because, I used to cover the NBA back in the day, that in the NBA you could not trade consecutive picks because I can't remember if it was the Sacramento Kings. There was some team that did, or the Clippers. It was some team that did like
one of them
something terrible, right? Maybe the Washington Wizards were like, for the right to take so-and-so, we'll give up consecutive draft picks for the next 3 to 4 years. And then David Stern had to step in and be like, but we got to give the fan base some hope. There's only 12 guys on the team.
Tucker says it's the Cavs, and then we haven't heard this conversation yet. It's on tomorrow's That Football Show with him and Verderam. So that's extremely exciting.
Perfect. So I think this was still when David Stern was the commissioner. He had to step in and basically say, hey, as the governors, which is, quote, the owners in NBA vernacular, hey, we got to tell the board of governors, it's got to be every other year. Like, we got to give you some level of like parameters and like, not putting you or your fan base in hell.
In hell, yes.
In literal hell.
We can't let you put your own fans in hell.
In hell for the next
can't trust
5
you.
years. I do love that Luke's comment is the New York Jets have now traded their high first-round picks for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, that's what happened.
That would still be a better move than anything they've done in the last decade. They're like, hey, we get a bona fide Pro Bowler, and he's hey, what Jimmy, we could change the playing surface, or we could trade 5 first-round picks for the rights to Pro Bowler Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Coach, Aaron Rodgers was telling us, why y'all play on turf? And then we were like, because that's what we do, baby. And then his Achilles snapped. Okay. So yeah, I do love. Yeah, yes, I do love the fact that the Browns are the one who's proposing this trade, or this proposal, I should say, for the NFL owners and for the competition committee to go through. The conversation shouldn't last long, would be my guess. But hey, you never know. I've seen stranger things. We allowed the referees who might go on strike.
Oh, that's the other one. Forgot about that.
Be like, look, there was a time, and I remember this because I was there, kids. I remember being, I think maybe it was the Florida one. We were in the Florida, West Palm, yeah, we were in Florida, I believe, and I remember being like, okay, this is ridiculous. This is nonsense. Ha 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 ha. We're going to let the referees decide offensive pass interference and defensive pass interference, and they're going to let us review it? That's a joke. Wait, they passed it?
They passed it.
Oh, my God. Does anybody not have foresight? This could go horribly wrong. And then the next year, we were in Arizona for the owners' meetings, and I think every reporter known to me it was around Sean Payton, who was still complaining about that abhorrent pass interference call against the Rams. That wasn't called against the Rams. That helped the Rams win the NFC Championship and get to the Super Bowl. So, like, I get it. I understand it. So I just, no, there's no way that they should let that happen. But I also understand, too, that this is one way for the league to sort of get people to have conversations like we are right now, with the understanding that, like, so you're telling me this is the last thing I'll say on this. You're telling me your general manager, who quote unquote might be on the hot seat, or quote unquote might throw his own head coach under the bus that he came into from a new administration standpoint, could tell his owner, look, Terry, look, I know what they're saying about us in Buffalo, but if we just trade the first pick in 2037, I'll still be the general manager, because who else is going to want this job?
I'm going to save it. No, I'm going to save it. Andrew Barry, right, is still in charge. Andrew Barry is Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems. Like, it's just one more bet. Let me make one more bet. I'm going to save it. I'm going to bring this thing around. Like, I know that I have crippled this franchise with the worst trade and corresponding contract extension in the history of this sport, where the ball isn't round.
Correct.
And not all the quarterbacks have 24 sexual assault allegations, but that's the guy I gave up everything for. And I would like to have the honor of using the next half decade of assets to try to cover my asset because I just bleeped the bed so hard. Who wants this? Like, again, like, why would ownership want this? There's so much turnover in the NFL. Every team has a new GM every 5 years, except for like 3 of them. Yeah. Everybody's changing all the time. What owner would sign up for that?
They shouldn't. It's my recommendation. You really shouldn't. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. But yeah, I would think that, if it was tough for them to propose, them getting through the 2/3 vote for the tush push last year, when I thought there was real momentum and real reasonings as to why you would say, hey, for the betterment of the league, maybe we should get away from this, rugby style, not creative, not built for television, when our entire sport is sort of built for television. It's not very appealing. But we understand it's like within the rules, but it's hard to officiate. And yes, there is some level of like safety concerns or like the appearance of like hypocrisy if we say, yeah, we're going to care about player safety and we're going to do all these things for the kickoff. But like, I guess the center can just smash his head into the defensive tackle before the ball's even snaps. Then, hey, I understand why there were certain teams that were like, yeah, we should get away from this just for like the business of football, not necessarily the X's and O's of it all. If they can't do that, I can't see them necessarily saying, yeah, let's trade the first round pick in 2035.
Crazy. Meanwhile, there might be replacement refs to start next season.
Yeah.
And the NFLPA hired their new leader. It's the one who
it's
I think resigned in disgrace after Pablo Torre found out, and nobody else found out nearly enough, apparently. Like, that's, man, like this league has a borderline monopoly on like the national the national attention on sports. Like we were joking air quotes about ways they could take the spotlight away from March Madness in the future. This is a sport that gets played consistently 3 months, 4 months out of the year.
Yeah,
and
4.
Wants to own 12 months out of the year and probably has 11 right now.
Right.
And we're on the verge of replacement refs, a disastrous players association, and ownership just keeps seeming to get what they want. It's baffling.
So it's 3 things here. The replacement refs are a real possibility at this point, even though it is March. That's a chip that
I want to say so bad. Like, it's not like it could be worse, but I remember what happened last time, and it was worse.
And it was worse. So that's a trading chip or a bargaining chip. Obviously, the new executive of the Players Association is a bargaining chip for the owners, even if you don't quite understand that, ladies and gentlemen. I saw somebody say, hey, the owners want a 19th game. Well, they're going to get an 18th game. It's just a matter of when and how they want to negotiate that because they have so many bargaining chips in their favor. Oh, and by the way, they already told CBS, hey, dog, money's up.
Yep.
I need a new deal. And they're like, but we've been so good to you. Nope, I need a new deal. Yeah. I want a new deal. Did you see what NBC gave the NBA? New deal. We at ESPN took an ownership claim and gave up an enormous amount of money. And if you haven't heard it yet, ladies and gentlemen, next year's Super Bowl will be on ESPN, like, the first non-traditional channel in this lovely sports history. And so, yeah, there's a number of things to keep in mind, like the new television money that's going to be put to the room yet again. The idea that, like, I mean, if you guys want the best referees, I guess you got to give us an 18th game. Hey, I mean, if you want the best facilities, I mean, I guess you got to give us an 18th game. Do you want to play in another country? You want to make more money? You want a bigger salary cap? You want better rules? Oh man, that's a shame. Looks like you're gonna play on Labor Day weekend, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's
Wednesday,
Day,
perhaps Wednesday,
Halloween.
Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Wednesday. Come on.
Yeah. So, and sorry, Nolan. The reason why you're not used to this show starting on time is because Seth's not here. There you go.
Let's take a break.
I'm BJ Kissel, founder and CEO of KC Sports Network. Emprise Bank has been with us from the beginning. They were our first network partner, and they believed in the vision of what we were building from the start. I can't speak to any other banks or companies and how they operate, but I can tell you from personal experience and based on the growth of the network you're listening to right now, that if you have banking needs, call our friends at Emprise Bank. We've worked with so many great people there over the years, from Vicky and Aggie to Andrea, Lori, Jackie, Deb, and Aaron, and not to mention so many others that not just supported KC Sports Network, but supported our KCSN Foundation as well. But the best thing that I know is that if I have a question or a problem, no matter how dumb the question is, I know who I'm going to call and who I'm going to talk to, and I know that I'm getting an answer from someone that I can trust, and I know that person is there to help us. That's why Emprise Bank has always been and continues to be our partner in Possible, and they can be yours too. You just have to reach out. If you have a banking need, whether it's business or personal, hit me up. I will connect you directly with the same people that have helped us build KCSN, and that's our friends at Emprise Bank.
Jake saying, did Seth not pass his physical? Look, I mean, if you've been seeing Seth over the last couple of months, that we had to come up with a different reason to send him back to the Raiders.
Right. Yeah, there's no physical issues. I mean, we haven't asked him to pee in a cup, but we're not in season, so we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't ask him to do that. He's just in the best shape of his life.
Yes. My client is in fact in the best shape of his life.
Yeah.
One of the running backs signed for a 1-year deal and got that thrown in their Jordan Schultz tweet. I think it was like Rico Dowdle or somebody. It was like Rico Dowdle signs a 1-year deal. Rico Dowdle, who's in great shape. Like, I would hope so. You're a free agent running back in the prime of your life. I would hope you have muscles.
We are at the stage of free agency where you're like, man, this tweet ain't gonna hit unless I put more words on the page.
So true. I'll tell you, you know what? Oh man, this is great. I didn't realize I had 3 non-rundown topics here today. I was genuinely surprised, and this is my own ignorance I'm admitting here. I was genuinely surprised to see Dameon Pierce sign with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yes.
I just thought he was on the roster. Like, I thought it was the Tyquan Thornton thing where he was just like around for a little bit and he was already pretty much locked in for the next season. I had no idea he was a pure free agent.
I don't think it went well for Dameon Pierce.
It doesn't seem like it.
So I don't.
It'd be hard to argue that it did.
I don't think he liked his experience last season when it was suggested to him that he could be part of a solution, and then Mahomes' knee, got torn up, and they were out of the playoffs, and then they were like, you're good. Just stay over there,
it's
man.
Like, you're not even getting like free agent tape work here.
Just stay over there, dog. They said nah. So no, I don't think he was interested in a futures contract. If that's what you're interested in.
Yeah. No, I truthfully, I hadn't really thought about Dameon Pierce, much like the Chiefs throughout the months of November through January. I really hadn't thought about him in a minute. And because he had 4 carries for 10 yards during his Chiefs tenure, he was active once. It looks like. So like I just thinking, that was the logic at the time was, well, he's not getting touches right now. We're gonna keep him around and then kind of see where he fits in the offseason plan. And where he fits in the offseason plan is apparently Philadelphia.
Yes, Ice Pyro, ethical take. One of the greatest. Hey guys, truly go back and rewatch some of those games. It is by far one of the greatest ethical takes I've ever seen. Because again, we acknowledge this on this show that it is legitimately shocking that they beat the Colts and then they never won another game after Thanksgiving. Now they were
easy, dude.
Now they were actively trying to win those games, of course. But then they got eliminated from postseason play. And then Gardner Minshew's knee kind of buckled on him on the first series in Tennessee, and the ethical tank was on. So it's funny that Chris Jones was like, I know, guys. I know. I jumped off sides. I know.
That was good. I forgot about that. That moment, he deserves more credit for that.
We could have thrown it to Travis Kelce. I don't know, every other play against the Denver Broncos, because if you rewatch the tape, you're like, my God, he's still really good at this. Even though checks notes, again, Chris Oladokin's fumbling the ball in the backfield when no one hit him. And let's not even talk about the Raiders game where Andy basically goes, I should help them, right? Okay, yeah, time out.
Look,
again, rewatch all three of those games. It is one of the most genuinely like ethical takes that like no. We always had the appearance that we were winning. We were in those games, guys, but no. That like should we call timeout? We should call timeout. Call timeout.
Making someone watch that would not be ethical. Like that's the biggest problem. It's crazy to think right now, like as much as we're all kind of like, I don't know if Ruben Bain's going to be there at 9, like Carnell Tate's probably not going to be there at 9.
Yeah, of course.
As it goes. If they would have won 2 games out of that mix, being an 8-win team, they're picking between 13 and 16.
Yes.
And they're definitely not getting any of those guys. Like we are
right.
hyping ourselves up for like, okay, so I know Peter Woods has been falling throughout the draft process, but at least he'll be there when we're on the clock at 14.
Right.
So I would advise you to do the opposite of what Nate says. Don't rewatch those games and just be glad that we're here now. You know.
Well, I just summarized them for you again.
Yes.
Like there were good moments where they were like, "Hey, man, no Williams showing up."
Get him out of there.
Hey, Christian Fulton. Wow, he's healthy. Hey, look at him. Chris, can you jump off sides? We gotta give up a touchdown, Chris.
All right. Well, that concludes our open for today. That concludes the welcome section of today's show. We thought we weren't going to have anything to talk about. Nate, I do want to talk about something you're working on right now over there on, I believe it's ESPN.com, forthcoming shortly.
Yes.
Kind of what we were planning on opening with today, but we're here. Who's complaining? Zach? Yeah. He's not even here. He can't complain. He's not here. Obviously, the Chiefs right now are in a bit of a reload territory where last season, as we've recently covered, ended disastrously and was not great at the best of times for the most part.
Right.
They've traded away Trent McDuffie. They've got 2 first-round picks, 4 in the top 75, and they are trying to kind of turn back the clock a little bit to when they were able to do this after the Tyreek Hill trade, which turns into an incredible array of draft picks, only 1 second contract out of that entire draft class. Which
crazy.
Is just wild. It's not, I'm not demeaning the draft class that way. That's just a crazy way for that story to end. But with all that in mind, what are you working on for ESPN and what's interesting to you about how this Chiefs offseason might be in conversation with those offseasons from 2022 and 2023?
Yeah, I think it's always interesting to see if there are some context clues as to how people should view this offseason, right? Because I want to remind people, like, as poorly as the draft went, I think people sometimes forget how poorly free agency went for the Chiefs last year. And so we are not looking back at the 2025 offseason because, kids, it was grim. I'm going to name 5 guys who were just a part of last year's. So here was their free agency scoopage, my friend. Are you ready?
Yeah.
To hear these names?
I don't know if I know what your 5 are going to be. Yeah, go ahead. I know 3 of them off the top of my head.
Yep. So the 5 were, and again, these were the top 5 free agents that the Chiefs acquired last year, which tells you that this offseason had to be drastically different. It was Jalen Moore, who immediately filled a need at left tackle, even though he had never been a full-time starter at left tackle. Mm-hmm. It was Christian Fulton, who unfortunately had a couple setbacks in training camp, it appears, and was not really available for the first half of the season. Elijah Mitchell, who didn't work out. Jerry Tillery, who was there.
Yeah.
He was on the field.
Yeah.
And Gardner Minshew, who again, he was out there. He was there. That's their top free agent acquisitions. It is objectively the worst free agency offseason period in the Brett Veach era for the Chiefs. So, given that context, we should look at what has worked in the past and if the Chiefs are trying to replicate that this year. And after seeing what they've done in the first wave of free agency, it very much appears that they are trying to marry, as most football plural personnel people will say, we're trying to marry 2 ideas and bring them together. We're trying to marry the free agency period of 2023 and the 2022 draft class and put them together in this year, arguably the most critical offseason in the Mahomes era, given that he's coming back from major knee surgery and the team has never had a top 10 pick since his arrival. What's fascinating to me, Josh, is Kenneth Walker, as we've discussed before, makes a ton of sense. Felt they had to do it, felt it was their biggest need at a position they couldn't necessarily stick around for the draft because we don't believe Jeremiah Love's going to be there. He will either be a Tennessee Titan or a New York Giant, it appears as of right now. So you do that, but one of the sneaky things that they did in 2023 was, hey, we're going to take this cap money from the, from the contract of Patrick Mahomes. They actually chose to not extend Chris Jones at the time, which say what you will about that. Mm-hmm. And we're going to use the money from the offense to start supporting the defense. And so that's where you get the trio of Charles Omenihu, Drew Tranquill, and Mike Edwards. And all three of those guys, if people need to be reminded, not only played well, but were exceptional in the postseason run as to why you won your second consecutive Super Bowl. The Chiefs are pretty much hoping for a similar result with, Kyrus Tonga, Alohi Gilman, and say his name again, Josh.
Kader Kohu.
I want to say Kader Kohu. I'm just going to say it 8 times.
Darth
Kader.
It's a great
now,
name.
Just like those three guys previously, you are trying to make a projection as to how they're going to fit within the system. But these are all guys who have been professionals, who have proven that can play at the NFL level, and you hope to squeeze a little bit more production out of them on your roster. Now, there is no Kenneth Walker in the 2023 free agency class, whatever you want, but it is interesting to me that they went from, hey, we got to fix the running game, to immediately saying, okay, we got to get better rotational guys, better role players to, as Seth said last episode, ease some of the burden off the top guys. And that even includes the defense of Chris Jones and George Karlaftis and Nick Bolton and the likes. So they have, in some ways, already succeeded this offseason. Because this free agency class, the 5 names I gave you earlier, just appears to be better. We haven't even gotten to the mercenary of it all, right? I mean, he would be technically 5. I know somebody mentioned Justin Reed earlier. Justin Reed was actually a part of the 2022 offseason.
Right.
Because they made the decision, a difficult one, to not bring back Tyrann Mathieu, because we could just go sign Justin Reed, a younger version of it, who actually was a former teammate with Tyrann Mathieu in Houston. It is interesting that Gilman is a former teammate of Drew Tranquill, who, as we all learned, heavily advocating for his return, or him to, join him as teammates again. So before we get to the draft portion of it all, I just want to know, what are your thoughts about that, Josh, in the fact that it's clear that they didn't overextend themselves. They did one splashy move, and then they tried to do some key smart moves similar to what they did in 2023.
Yeah, and I think when you mention all the guys from last year, maybe we should have seen some of the writing on the wall when some of the quote-unquote biggest acquisitions were one-year deals, which was true for Minshew, for Mitchell, for Tillery,
yep.
And obviously Jalen Moore is the only one of that sequence. Who did I just leave out of those 5? I just skipped over.
Oh, boy, I got to go look at it again, sadly. No, Christian Fulton had a 2-year deal.
That's true, right.
Christian Fulton,
and the 2-year deals for both of them.
Yeah, Christian Fulton's deal was probably the most, hey, this is a legitimate free agency deal.
It's the Kyrus Tonga deal.
Yes.
It's like, hey, it's a legit 2-year deal with legit guaranteed money.
Right.
And we're paying for a veteran to come in and kind of like set the floor. And if we draft ahead of you, if somebody beats you out for the job, then we're going to, and this kind of ended up being the logic for Jalen Moore too.
Yes.
If we end up hitting the lottery and Josh Simmons is there at 31, then 32, if you're an expensive swing tackle because we have 2 better players, then we'll live with that. I think what's the most interesting thing for me, and I know I've already said this before in terms of like the position groups that they ended up going for in terms of committing that money to Drew Tranquill at a lower number, but especially Tonga, Gilman, and then to an extent still Walker and DeMarcado, of, hey, we're paying real money for position groups that, again, aren't quote-unquote premium positions.
Yes.
But you can get actual multi-year answers, not decade-long answers, but multi-year answers at those positions for reasonable but legitimate free agent money.
Yes.
And then you have all these assets in the draft where you can hopefully get the super long-term answers and the incredible value that comes on a rookie contract if you are able to find your edge rusher of the future at 9 or 29, your receiver of the future at 9 or 29, or wherever they end up actually making those picks. So it does feel, I like the angle a lot of like, hey, you want to replicate this incredible draft haul where also this was not, I don't think this was the conversation at the time, and maybe the windows just shifted some over the years, but Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis played 2 premium positions. They drafted a bunch of corners, and Brian Cook as a safety, less premium, I suppose, but like joining that group of all those DBs, premium positions and picks that panned out.
Yes.
Premium position picks that panned out. It's alliteration Thursday here. So I think, again, if you can't whiff on Kenneth Walker and you can't whiff on Gilman or Tonga. Like, you need those guys to be at least very, very close to what you are asking for them. But really, this offseason comes down to if those draft picks hit and if they make them at the right positions or not. If they don't, this offseason I think is going to be kind of a sad footnote of just like, Tonga and Gilman, I'm not predicting this for everybody with an earpiece in, but like, oh man, Tonga and Gilman, I know they joined the team at the beginning of the 3-year decline of the Kansas City Chiefs. When they ended up missing the playoffs 3 years in a row. But they really played pretty good. It's just that, none of their draft picks from that 2-year window really panned out. And that's more weight on Omar Norman-Lott and Ashton Gelati and to an extent still Josh Simmons. So I think the free agency thing is like, hey, we'll patch up some holes with some veterans, but the nucleus of this team is still very TBD.
Yes. And the other thing that's so funny, and I'm glad somebody mentioned this, not to be a total side note, shout out to Mike 5G or G15. Still can't process how Lodi Gilman getting a private jet to Kansas City's downtown airport, I would add, his commute was minimal compared to the physical, let's say, complications of the Max Crosby not even getting that to Baltimore. Nothing fishy there at all. Completely normal, Mike.
So weird. Good call.
If we are led to believe what Max Crosby has said, and by the way, still in the division, it seems like the Baltimore Ravens are wildly becoming a bottom 10 organization in the NFL, and that's hard to think. It's hard to understand, but that's what they chose to do. They backed out of trade. Can't wait to see the next team that trades with the Ravens, and if they get a tax or a surplus on top of the ramifications of what happened with Max Crosby. Now, Max Crosby, as we know as of now, still a Las Vegas Raider. Say what you will about Clark Hunt. He ain't no idiot, okay? And he's actually pretty knowledgeable, and he came up as one of the – I always want to remind people when it comes to Clark Hunt, he always came up better than average to my father owned this, and now I own it. Because we've seen that has not worked the majority of the time in most professional and like the big 4 professional sports leagues. Like most of the time, it doesn't really quite work out the way you wanted, or the success isn't, sort of built upon what was, laid down before. So the Chiefs have always done things well. I know it was really funny, and maybe less people have heard about this, but I know my guy Chase Daniel put out a video about him and his wife and how they were treated when they joined the Chiefs as the backup quarterback.
Right.
They got driven in a limo. They got picked up, private jet, all those things. I mean, Clark knows what's not on the salary cap. And I hope people understand what I mean when I say that. So
if that's Walker's what he planting one tree in downtown Kansas City is what you're telling me? That's a big accusation.
I don't know.
Mate.
Yeah, I don't know if Steve Buscemi.
That's okay.
I don't know.
I was going to Steve Ballmer, and I was like, that's
no. Well, Steve Ballmer.
Couple of Steves
doing wild behavior. Just saying, might be on a trend. No, I was gonna say Steve Buscemi, who is a character in and of himself, but honestly, usually lets the football people do the football things. So, I don't know what the hell that was, but But yeah, can't wait to see what Steve Buscetti's comments are in a couple of weeks at the NFL owners meetings when he decides if he wants to start trading future picks 5 years from now that he will totally renege on and say, what? We did that? Who? Huh?
5 firsts for Max Crosby for the deal to fall through would have hit even harder.
Yeah, incredible, right?
Let that happen.
They really should have. Or maybe, maybe Roger Goodell says, well, because of this, the 2030 future first round pick now belongs to the Raiders. just circumvents the entire rules.
Yeah. Look, you mentioned David Stern at the beginning of the show. If Roger Goodell wants to put on his David Stern hat for a little bit, he could really make some decisions. He could really pull some heavy levers.
Right. And get like and look, it's not like the Players Association's really humming right now.
No kidding, dude.
If he wanted to do something kind of crazy, not like the Players Association has a lot of strength in numbers, as we would say. I also want to give a shout out to Pasu, who says, look, I don't want to look. If I mention Steve Tisch's name, I am not associated with Steve Tisch in any way. In any way, right? I've never emailed with this man. I don't know who this man is. But apparently, he's done some suspicious behavior in the past. Man, what's up with Steve's right now?
Steve's are having a tough go. We gotta get some good Steves. We gotta even the Steve's out.
Hey, the only white Steve I like is Steve Carell.
Whoa, Nate. I
okay, maybe
like
two.
I'd like to think my number one Steve is
White
Steve Nash. White Steve.
Oh, that's Canadian Steve. I don't even include him.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
That's
okay.
Canadian
That's acceptable.
Steve. Yeah, the only Steve Nash, Steve Carell, stand down. Every other Steve.
Apologies to Stephen Holman in the chat, so that makes me sad. Sorry, Stephen. But you're a Stephen to us. You're a Stephen to us.
You're Stephen.
Everything.
Yeah, it's in your account, sir. It's in your account.
Don't go.
And by the way, white Steve. I don't even know if Steve Holman's white, but we'll find out, I guess. Is there a black Steve? Well, not on my team.
Steve Harvey is the black Steve,
obviously,
right?
yeah, but I mean, yes.
Steve Young, I can give or take.
What were we talking about? Steve Young?
I can give or take.
That's Mormon Steve. That ain't even us. That ain't even us.
Like a tiny bit difficult in a phone interview I did one time, and it was enough for me. It seems like it's not. I don't have beef.
By the way,
he's not Troy Aikman.
I do love Steve Young. I really do love Steve Young.
Okay, great.
People sleep on Steve Young. Steve Young was so cold. He was so good. Randall Cunningham.
I hung up the phone with him too.
Steve Young, I always think Steve Young and Randall Cunningham don't get enough respect in our quarterback tiers of greatest of all time.
God, we haven't mentioned Steve Spagnuolo, which is actually my apology. That's Italian Steve.
Italian Steve. Now somebody said, well, what about Cold Stone Steve Austin? And I said, well, that's
Cold Stone Steve Austin's actually a character I've been working on. That's a branded ice cream collaboration that I've been trying to get off.
All right, we got 3 Steves. All right, he good in my heart. He ain't done nothing stupid, right? He ain't gone Hogan on us, right? He ain't did nothing.
I don't think so.
Okay, as long as hey, Steve, you cool with me? Just yeah. I just love that we're naming Steves. Shout out to Steve McNair. He was also very underrated, given how good he was for a certain stretch of his career as well. He just didn't have necessarily the longevity. Yes, you know what? If you give me all right. I mean, Sienna almost beat Duke with 5 Steves. Let's be honest. So, like, give me top 5 Steves. Like, give me the starting Steves.
Stevie Wonder doesn't count. He
doesn't count. He's on my team already. Like, what are we talking about? Please don't let the mouse hear about this. Steve Bono. Oh no, he's never on my list. He ruined my childhood, and I hope he hears this.
He's not even my favorite Bono, much less my favorite Steve.
He's not my You look. Hey, have y'all listened to that Joshua Tree? Oh, I got it on vinyl. It's incredible. Anyway. Steve Bono said,
let me Google. Let me just figure out if this is true or not, so we can go ahead and get our apology out in the same episode it happens.
Hey, if I've told you to watch the last 3 games of last season, I definitely want you to watch its totality, the 1995 AFC Divisional game where Steve Bono in the first half was like actually pretty good, considering that he had been the backup to Steve Young and he had been the backup to, of course, the great Joe Montana. And also in a half when it was freezing cold and the field was ice and they changed all the conditions around Arrowhead Stadium because of it. Like if you look at that game on television, on YouTube, dog, they're basically the receivers are figure skaters on the perimeter. That's how bad the field was and that's how cold it was. And we all know Lynn Elliott missed 3 field goals. And Lynn Elliott mostly gets the blame for that 1995 debacle. I want you to go back and watch Steve Bono lose his mind in the second half of that game and throw 3 of the most atrocious interceptions to where Marty Schottenheimer, who never pulls his quarterback, said, hey, bro, I got to hey, these boys ain't going to look at me if I don't pull you right now. And Rich Gannon got them into field goal range for the sequential childhood memory of it. Like as soon as it left his foot, it was never in range. So no, Steve Bono is not one of my favorite white Steves.
I'm also going to just go ahead and say that let's just leave Steve Austin out of it. There's some doing.
You found something? All right, yeah. We received the offer to have Steve on our team. Okay, he's off. He's off the board.
Down. I definitely want to. Megan, great chat here. We got to move Steve Martin onto the list. That's
Steve Martin's on the list.
Steve,
I think
he's not top 5 Steve. Period.
Yeah, he's not in my generation, but top 5 Steve. I mean, yeah, of course. Steve Irwin, sure. Steve Buscemi.
Oh, Steve Irwin. Oh,
I mean, come on.
Australian Steve, of course, but still,
Australian Steve. Yeah, of course.
Steve from Blue's Clues from Oscar Bobo. Great call. Got us
through a lot. Got us through a lot.
Mount Rushmore, but it was for a while.
Hey, you know who stood tall with them towers, Phil? Steve.
Really? I don't recall.
I'm just saying
Steve Hawking, and that's not. He's a Steven.
Yeah, that's Steven. I'm just saying, Blue's Clues. Hey, man, at least it was on the next day. World was changing back then. By the way, I went through but today I went through was it the 2003, 2002 NCAA tournament? I don't know why, but for some reason I was Googling it. And I remember when CBS was like, yeah, we're going to get you that news in Iraq. And I said, what?
Oh, crazy. Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, so we're going to pull all the games and they're going to be on ESPN. It's like that really happened. And we're still in Iraq.
No,
why, guys?
Samuel says Elvis.
Why?
Was Elvis's name Steve at some point? Is his real name
Again,
his real name Steve?
That predates my generation. That's all I'm saying. By the way, you guys in the comments have taken this and ran it, and it's incredible. And
I really appreciate it. I would have been beating myself up for Steve Martin and Steve Irwin in the White Steve Mount Rushmore conversation.
It's like the Boston Garden. There's a lot of banners up there. So what we've realized is there's still an above average of white banner Hall of Fame Steves that are white, unlike some of the Steves of a most recent generation. Or a past generation. Yeah, we figured out, hey, bro, you can't be, hey, the committee has decided we can't say your name again. And that's tough for us because we the white Steves. We the white Steves, man. Come on.
I completely forgot where this started from until you said that. I completely forgot that this started with billionaire Steves. Messing it up for millionaire Steves.
Right. Shout out to Steve Novak, who was a part of that 2003 Marquette basketball team with the young Dwayne Wade. And somehow, I mean, let's talk about white Steves. I love Steve Novak. I covered him when he was a part of the New York Knicks way back when. But yeah, Steve Novak, lethal. Beat Missouri in the second round of the dance with a young Dwayne Wade before he knew that Dwayne Wade was Dwayne Wade. Yeah.
Have we added Steve Buscemi to the list at any point?
Yeah, Steve Buscemi's good with us. Again, not my generation, but he can come off the bench. He can come off the bench.
Steve Aoki, not really on my roster. I respect him because he's huge in the DJ community, not really my.
Right, correct. Yeah.
Apple's got 2 Steves, Steve Jobs and Wozniak, both Steves.
See, Steve Jobs has a compelling and both complicated history.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in the he was in the senior committee. He got in on senior committee level.
For sure.
Yeah, he's up in the rafters, but complicated.
Steve McQueen also probably not quite our generation. I'm now doing research to make sure we've covered most of the bases.
Okay. White Steves.
Yeah, I think
does Google know when we say white Steves what we mean by that, or does it just?
No, I didn't Google.
Okay.
I didn't specify. I've been doing that filtering myself.
Not that I want to ask any AIs for that, because we know that those systems have been,
that's really going to fail us in a lot of ways, I think.
Yeah, it's not been great.
I think my Mount Rushmore of white Steves is probably Steve Nash is probably 1-1. Steve Nash, Steve Irwin, Steve Martin, Steve Carell is very good. I'll tell you what
Steve
also
Carell's
really bleeps you up. The longer you look at the name Steve, the less it looks like anything. Steve is not a normal combination of letters. And I've stopped knowing what anyone's name is because everybody's Steve now.
Right. I don't even know if the Chiefs have a famous Steve on their roster from way back when.
Did Steven Nelson go by Steve at some point?
No, and he should never go by Steve Nelson.
I agree.
If he was Steve Nelson, he wouldn't have been in the league very long.
I agree. I think that's a good take.
Yeah, so that's just me spitballing. Look, Steve Ballmer, understanding that to keep his superstar happy, we got to give him a deal that's not really on but like, okay, my question about this the entire time was, there are ways to get liquid, as the homies say. Y'all telling me y'all couldn't get liquid? Y'all had to put this on paper? Okay. Sure. You could have just handed him bats like we used to do in the old days, but you wanted to do this on paper for a trail? Have you not looked at anything before?
Steve Kerr?
Oh, he can always start for me. One of the best white Steves we've ever had. One of the best Steves we've ever had, because he punched Michael Jordan and somehow lived about it, and let alone got any more assists from that man. Like, think about how far Steve Kerr has come. Not only has he coached one of the greatest basketball players we've ever seen in Steph Curry, he punched Michael Jordan and then got punched by Michael Jordan and wasn't kicked off the team immediately. You know how hard that is? You know how good you got to be?
So coming soon to ESPN.com, you can read Nate's story about the Chiefs' offseason plans trying to replicate 2022 and 2023 in their own respective ways. We'll talk about the defensive line and Khyiris Tonga with Seth presumably on Tuesday. He's got a film review up there now. And boy, I mean, this is, I don't know, it's probably not it's got to tie a record that we got through the welcome and one topic with just the two of us, and we're over 50 minutes. This is, by legal definitions, this is a full-length podcast.
Yep.
And this has to be what Tucker and Verderame feel like doing that football show, where it's just like, okay, well, man, this is a slow day. This is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one to get through. You know what? Might as well just pull up our socks and get going. And then 53 minutes later, you go, man, that was fun. What happened? Yeah. I blacked out. Where's Steve? Steve is the name of the hedge that they give in Over the Hedge. That's also huge. There's a big hedge, and they go, what should we call it? I'd be less afraid of it if it had a name. Let's call it Steve. Steve's a pretty name. That's in my head forever. I've seen that movie 500 times.
I know some people have said about Steve Spagnuolo, if anyone were to call that man Steve to his face in that facility, something's gone horribly wrong. He is Spags. He will always be Spags.
Yeah.
Or Spagnolio, courtesy of Trent McDuffie when he first got to town, called him Spagnolio. Look it up. It's hilarious. But no, I always think of Spags, and we're really talking, players specifically, not coaches at this point. But yeah, and by the way, I always love when shows go off the rails because it shows like the humanity of it all. We know what day it is. I love that football show because it's that football show. And I wish I could see Tucker's reaction to that because he knows what I'm saying. Okay, I don't know if we got all right, you guys want something, here you go. Sure, Cam Jordan, definitely legitimate. Juwan Jennings, again, I don't know what he's doing. He might wait as long as he wants. Totally his prerogative. I think the Chiefs will and are and have been interested in him. So those two, I know those people ask me about two names about that. Yes, to Josh's point, much of the offseason now really does come down to how the draft is handled and executed, both in the short term and in our long-term memory. And when I say long-term memory, I mean 4 years from now, when they've traded a guy away and they've let everybody else get paid and they've won 2 more Super Bowls and been in 3 more, and we just do the cycle 4 years later. Which is so funny that like we can already do like referendums on a draft that was 4 years ago. Seems crazy. Wildly nuts. All right, the best Black Steve is of course Stevie Wonder, and I just want people.
I don't know if that he goes by Stevie. I don't know. It's a different name. I don't know.
I understand.
I mean, Steve Harvey. You gotta make a real strong argument to knock off Steve Harvey. He goes by Steve.
I understand. He's Steve Wonder. He's Stevie Wonder. I'm so glad you got that. He's Steve. He's Stevie Wonder. They said, you know, I mean, yeah. I mean, Steve Harvey's great, but he's not Stevie Wonder. He ascends Steve. You know how hard that is to do? To your point, when you look at the name Steve, kind of hard to ascend it. He got in the booth, and every year he just ascended. By the way, Stevie Wonder came out with an album like every year for like 10 years, and it's kids, we don't have that production in today's day and age. It's just impossible. How do you do it? Amazing. Stevie Nicks. Yeah, exactly. Stevie Nicks ascended Steve.
You can do your top Stevies, but I just think that's different.
Well, there's only 2.
I'll talk to you on Tuesday. Say hi to a Steve in your life.
I hope Steve